I fell in love with her before I knew she was my sister. That's the kind of twist life saves for people like me. People who think they've outrun their ghosts. My name's Alex, 21, a college junior with a dad I barely remember and a mom who raised me solo after he bolted. He left when I was 6, after a divorce that sounded like war. Yelling, slammed doors, papers scattered on the kitchen floor. I didn't ask why. I just stopped caring. Mom didn't talk about him, and I didn't push. He was gone, a shadow I didn't need. By college, I'd buried him deep, until Emma dug everything up without even trying. It was a Tuesday when she crashed into my life. Library, campus buzzing outside, me hunched over an econ book I hated. She dropped into the chair across from me, textbooks tumbling, and smirked. "You look miserable," she said, voice bright, cutting through the quiet. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Emma, 20, sophomore, all messy brown hair and eyes that sparkled like she knew something I didn't. Smart as hell, funny, the kind of easygoing that made you forget your own baggage. We clicked fast, talks that stretched past midnight, drives to nowhere, her singing off key while I grinned like an idiot. She got me. 2 months in, I was gone for her. I'd never felt this before. Crushes, sure, but not this pull, this heat. We'd sprawl on her dorm floor, 2 a.m., trading dreams, hers to see the world, mine to figure out mine. "You're stuck with me, Alex," she'd tease, poking my arm, and I'd think, good, that's all I want. Mom saw it too, caught me smiling too much over coffee at home. "You're smitten," she'd say, smirking. "When do I meet her?" I dodged it, wanted Emma to myself a little longer. But Emma, she was all in, wanted the whole deal, family included. "Tell me about your dad," she'd say, head on my chest, voice soft. I'd stiffen, shrug it off. "Left when I was little. That's it." She'd nod, let it go, but I knew she'd circle back. She did. Months in, she pushed for real. "Meet my mom first," she said, grinning. "Then yours. Fair's fair." I couldn't argue. Her mom was great. Warm, loud, hugged like she'd known me forever. So we set it up. Friday, her place, an hour from campus. I remember the drive, crisp air, her humming beside me, my hand on hers. "Nervous?" she asked, catching my silence. "Nah," I lied. "Just new to this." She squeezed my knee. "They'll love you." And I believed her. With Emma, I could do this. Family, the messy stuff I'd always ducked. She made it feel possible. That's how it started. Simple, bright, like something out of a movie. I didn't see the cracks coming. Didn't know that night at her mom's would rip my life apart, that I'd sit at her table and see a face I couldn't unsee. But that's later. Right now, it's just us, me and Emma, driving into the dusk, her laugh filling the car, the road wide open. I'm thinking she's it, the one I've been waiting for. And I'm right. Just not the way I expect. I should have known something was off the second we pulled up to Emma's mom's house. It was too perfect. White siding, red shutters, a porch swing creaking in the breeze like some postcard from a life I'd never lived. Emma bounded out of the car, all grins, tugging me along. "Come on, slowpoke," she called, her voice bright, cutting through the dusk. I followed, hands shoved in my pockets, trying to shake the weird knot in my gut. Family stuff wasn't my thing. Too many years of mom and me against the world, no room for cozy dinners or small talk. But for Emma, I'd try. I'd do anything. Her mom, Linda, met us at the door, warm, loud, pulling me into a hug that smelled like garlic and lavender. "Alex! Finally!" she said, like I was some long-lost son. I forced a smile, mumbled a "good to meet you too," and let Emma drag me inside. The place was alive, pots clanging, a radio humming some old tune, her stepdad, Greg, poking his head out to wave. "Hope you're hungry," he said, grinning. I nodded, relaxing a little. It was normal, easy. Emma squeezed my hand, whispered, "Told you they'd love you," and I almost believed I could fit here. Dinner started fine, lasagna steaming on the table, Linda asking about college, Greg tossing dad jokes that made Emma groan. I laughed, loosened up, Even told a story about the time I bombed a presentation in econ. Emma leaned into me, her shoulder warm against mine, and for a minute, I forgot the ghosts I carried. This was good. This was family, maybe. Then Linda stood, brushing crumbs off her hands. "Oh, Alex, you've got to see this," she said, bustling to a shelf across the room. Emma's baby pictures. She was such a chunk. Emma swatted her arm, laughing. "Mom, no." But Linda was already pulling down a frame, turning it toward me with a proud smile. I glanced at it. Emma, maybe 2, chubby cheeks and a gap-toothed grin. Cute. I started to say something, but my eyes snagged on the man holding her. Tall, broad shoulders, dark hair slicked back, a smile I hadn't seen in years. My stomach dropped. No. No way. I blinked, leaned closer, the room tilting. It was him. My dad. The face I'd buried, the one from blurry memories. There, frozen in a photo, staring back at me. My fork clattered to the plate. Emma frowned. "You okay?" she asked, voice soft, but I couldn't answer. My chest was tight, air gone, thoughts slamming into each other. "Alex," Linda said, stepping closer, the frame still in her hands. "What's wrong?" I couldn't look at her, couldn't look at Emma. That face. His face. It didn't make sense. "Who's that?" I croaked, pointing at the photo, my voice a stranger's. Linda tilted her head, confused. "That's Emma's dad. My ex, haven't seen him in ages." She laughed, casual, like it was nothing. "Why, you know him?" My mouth went dry. Know him? He was my dad, left when I was 6, vanished into thin air. And now, here he was, holding Emma. My Emma. Panic clawed up my throat. I shoved back from the table, chair scraping loud, everyone staring. I need air," I muttered, stumbling toward the door. Emma called after me, "Alex, wait." But I was already outside, gulping cold night air, hands shaking. This couldn't be real. My dad. Her dad. No. No, no, no. I pressed my palms to my eyes, trying to unsee it, but that face burned behind my lids. Emma's voice came closer. Soft. Worried. "What's going on? Talk to me." I turned, saw her standing there, so perfect, so mine. And that's when it hit me hard like a fist to the gut. If he was her dad, then she was, oh God, she was my sister. I wanted to scream, to run, to rip that photo to shreds and pretend I'd never seen it. But I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Emma stepped closer, touched my arm, her eyes searching mine. "Alex, you're scaring me. What happened? What happened?" Everything. My whole world, us, her, this, cracked open in one stupid second. I loved her. I loved her so much it hurt, and now she was my half-sister. Blood. Family. The word tasted like poison. "I'm fine," I lied, voice breaking, pulling away. "Just give me a minute." She didn't push, just stood there, confused, while I turned and stared into the dark, heart pounding, mind racing. How did this happen? Mom never said he'd remarried, never hinted at another kid. But Linda's words echoed, her ex, Emma's dad, gone for years. Same story, same ghost. I needed answers, needed Mom to tell me this was wrong, a mistake. But deep down I knew. I felt it, the sick, heavy truth settling in my bones. Emma was his. And so was I. The girl I loved, the one I'd built my future around. She was my sister. And I had no idea what to do next. The drive back to campus was a blur. Headlights cutting through the dark, Emma quiet beside me, the hum of the engine filling the silence I couldn't break. She tried to talk, her hand brushing mine, voice soft with worry. "Alex, what happened back there? You looked like you saw a ghost." A ghost. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. My dad's face, haunting me from a frame on her mom's shelf. I'd mumbled something, stomachache, tired, anything to dodge her eyes, and she'd let it go, but I could feel her watching me, waiting. I didn't have words. Not yet. Not until I knew for sure. I dropped her off at her dorm, forced a smile. I'll call you tomorrow, I said, voice flat, hollow. She nodded, hesitant, then leaned in to kiss me. I turned my head, couldn't help it, and her lips grazed my cheek instead. Her frown deepened, but she didn't push. Get some rest, she whispered, stepping back. I watched her go, her silhouette fading into the building, and something in me cracked. That was my Emma, smart, funny, mine. And now I didn't know what she was. I drove off, hands tight on the wheel, the road stretching into nothing, my mind screaming one word over and over. Sister. I couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight. By 3 a.m., I was pacing my room, the photo burned into my skull. Dad holding Emma, smiling like he'd never smiled at me. I had to know, had to hear it from Mom. So I grabbed my keys, drove the hour home in the dead of night, the radio off, just me and the weight of it all. Her house was dark when I got there, but I didn't care. Banged on the door until the lights flicked on, until she opened it, bleary-eyed in her robe. Alex. What's wrong? She asked, voice sharp with alarm. I shoved past her, couldn't stop moving. I need to talk. Now. She followed me to the kitchen, frowning, arms crossed. It's 3 in the morning. What's going on? I turned, met her eyes, and let it out. Raw, jagged, no filter. Emma's dad. It's him, isn't it? My dad. Your ex. Her face went still, pale, like I'd slapped her. That's when I knew. Before she even opened her mouth, I knew. What are you talking about? She said, too quick, too shaky. I laughed, bitter, loud in the quiet. Don't lie to me. I saw a picture, him holding her as a baby. Same face, Mom. Same damn face. She sank into a chair, hands trembling, and I waited, heart pounding, for her to say it. He was with someone else, she started, voice low, breaking. After we split, he moved away, met Linda. I didn't know about a kid. Not for years. By then, he was gone again, out of both our lives. She looked up, eyes wet, pleading. I didn't think it mattered, Alex. You were mine, my boy. He didn't deserve you, and I didn't want his mess touching us. His mess. Emma. My sister. I gripped the counter, knuckles white, the room spinning slow. You didn't think it mattered? I snapped. I'm in love with her, Mom. I stopped, choked on it, the words too big, too wrong. She's my sister, and you didn't tell me. She flinched, tears spilling now, but I couldn't feel sorry. Not then. I didn't know, she whispered. I swear, I didn't know about her until later, and by then, I thought he was gone for good. I never imagined. She reached for me, but I backed away, shaking my head. You should have told me. You should have warned me. My voice cracked, anger bleeding into something worse. Grief, thick and heavy. Emma was my sister. Half-sister, blood. Family. The girl I'd kissed, held, dreamed about. She was his too. And I couldn't unknow it. I left her there, crying at the table, and drove back to campus as dawn broke. Gray, cold, empty. My phone buzzed. Emma, texting. You okay? Call me. I stared at it, thumb hovering, then shut it off. What could I say? Hey, turns out we're related. I laughed, a sick, broken sound, and tossed the phone on the seat. I loved her. God, I loved her so much it ached, and now it was poison. Every memory twisted, every touch a knife. I saw her laughing, her head on my chest, her voice saying my name, and it all felt wrong, tainted, like I'd crossed a line I didn't even see coming. I had to tell her. She deserved that much, deserved the truth, even if it broke us both. But how? How do you look at the person you die for and say, we're done, because we're family? I sat in my car, head in my hands, the weight crushing me. Mom's words echoed. He was with someone else, met Linda, had Emma. A whole life I didn't know, a sister I'd fallen for. And me, stuck in the middle, loving someone I couldn't have. Tomorrow, I'd face her. Tomorrow, I'd end it. But tonight, I just sat there, lost, the pieces of us shattering around me. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. The truth sat on my chest like a stone, heavy, unmovable. Emma, my sister. By morning, my phone was lit up with her texts. You okay? Call me, please. Alex, what's wrong? Each one twisted the knife deeper. I stared at them, coffee going cold in my hand, knowing I couldn't dodge her forever. She deserved to know, deserved better than me ghosting her like some coward. So I texted back, short, sharp. Meet me at the park. Noon. No explanation, no softening it. I couldn't. Not yet. The park was quiet when I got there. Benches empty, leaves crunching under my boots, the air cold enough to sting. I paced near the old oak we'd sat under a dozen times. Her laughing, me stealing kisses. Now it felt like a graveyard. She showed up right on time, bundled in her scarf, eyes searching mine before she even spoke. Hey, she said, soft, stepping close. You look awful. What's going on? I couldn't meet her gaze. Couldn't stand how perfect she still was, how much I wanted to pull her in and pretend nothing had changed. But it had. Everything had. Sit, I said, voice rough, nodding at the bench. She did, hesitant, and I stayed standing, needed the distance. My hands shook, so I shoved them in my pockets, took a breath. I don't know how to say this, I started, then stopped, the words sticking like glass in my throat. She frowned, leaned forward. Alex, you're freaking me out. Just tell me. Just tell her. Like it was simple. Like it wouldn't ruin us. I looked at her, really looked, and saw her mom's photo again, my dad's face, the truth I couldn't outrun. That picture, I said low. At your mom's. The guy holding you. That's my dad. Her eyes widened, a sharp intake of breath cutting the silence. What? She whispered, like she hadn't heard right. I pushed on, voice breaking. My dad, your dad. Same guy. Left me when I was 6, met your mom, had you? I didn't know, Emma. I swear I didn't know. She stared at me, frozen, her hands gripping the bench. No, she said, shaking her head fast. No, that's insane. You're wrong. But I wasn't. I saw it in her face, the flicker of doubt, the pieces clicking. I talked to my mom, I said, quieter now. She confirmed it. He's ours. We're siblings. She shot up, stumbling back, tears spilling before she could stop them. Oh my God, she choked, hands flying to her mouth. Oh my God, Alex, no! Her voice broke, loud, raw, and it gutted me. I stepped toward her, instinct kicking in, but she flinched, hard, and I stopped cold. Don't, she snapped, then softer. Please, don't. She turned away, breathing fast, ragged, like she was drowning. I wanted to hold her, fix it, but I couldn't. I'd done this, broken her, broken us. I'm sorry, I said, useless, desperate. I didn't want this. She spun back, eyes blazing through the tears. Sorry. You're sorry. She stopped, laughed. A sharp, broken sound that didn't sound like her. We kissed. Alex. God, I love you, and you're my brother. Her voice cracked on the word, and she sank to the ground, knees hitting dirt, sobs shaking her. I dropped beside her, not touching, just there. I love you too, I said, quiet, wrecked. That's why I had to tell you. I couldn't lie. She looked up, face wet, ruined, and for a second, I thought she'd scream at me. But she didn't. Instead, she wiped her eyes, took a shaky breath, and stood, slow like it hurt. Okay, she said, voice trembling but steadier. Okay, so, what now? I blinked, thrown. What? She crossed her arms, jaw tight. We're related. Half siblings. Fine. That's the truth. But what do we do with it? Her tone shifted, sharp, rational, the Emma I knew clawing through the mess. Do we just stop? Pretend this, she waved between us, never happened. I stared, lost. I don't know, I admitted. I don't know how to stop loving you. She flinched again, softer this time, then nodded, like she got it, like it hurt her too. Me neither, she whispered. But we have to, right? It's wrong. That word hung there, heavy, final. I wanted to argue, to say it wasn't, couldn't be, when it felt so right before. But she was right. Blood didn't lie. Yeah, I said, throat tight. We have to. She looked away, out at the trees, and I saw her pull herself together. Piece by piece, the tears drying, the panic fading. I need time, she said finally. To think. Alone. I nodded, numb. Me too. She started to walk away, then stopped, glanced back. You're still you, she said, voice small. That doesn't change. But it did. It changed everything. I watched her go, her scarf trailing in the wind, until she was gone. And I stood there, alone, the park silent around me, feeling her absence like a hole I'd never fill. We were done, had to be. But my heart didn't care. It still beat for her, wrong or not, and I didn't know how to make it stop. Days bled into weeks after that park bench goodbye. Emma didn't call, didn't text, and I didn't either, couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her tears, heard her voice cracking on brother, felt the weight of what we'd lost. I went through the motions, classes, coffee, sleep when it came, but it was hollow. She was gone, and I was stuck loving a ghost I couldn't touch. Mom tried to help, left voicemails I didn't answer, but I didn't want her words. I wanted answers, real ones, not excuses. So I did something crazy. I tracked him down. My dad. Our dad. It wasn't hard. Old records, a phone call to Linda, a grudging address scribbled on a napkin. He was an hour away, holed up in some run-down apartment, a shadow of the man in that photo. I didn't tell Emma, didn't know if she'd want this, but I had to see him, had to know why he'd left us both to crash into each other like this. When I knocked, he opened the door, taller than I remembered, gray streaking his hair, eyes narrowing like he knew me but couldn't place me. Yeah, he grunted, voice rough. I didn't flinch. It's Alex, your son. His face went slack, then hard, defensive. What do you want? I stepped inside, uninvited, the air stale with cigarette smoke. You had another kid, I said, flat, cutting through his bullshit. Emma, Linda's daughter. Why didn't you tell me? He scoffed, crossed his arms. Didn't owe you that. Your mom got you, Linda got her. I moved on. Moved on. Like we were furniture he'd left behind. I clenched my fists, voice rising. You didn't think I'd meet her? Fall for her? She's my sister, and I didn't know because of you. He flinched then, looked away, muttering. Didn't plan it that way. Life's messy. Messy. That's all he had, years of silence, 2 kids tangled up in his wreckage, and messy. But then he softened, shoulders slumping, voice low. I screwed up, all right? Left you, left her. Didn't think you'd cross paths. I'm sorry, Alex, for what it's worth. It wasn't worth much, not yet, but it was something, a crack in the wall he'd built. I didn't forgive him, didn't say it was okay, just nodded. I'm getting a DNA test, I said, firm. For me and her. I need to know for sure. He didn't argue, just watched me go, a tired man with too many regrets. I called Emma that night. First time in weeks. She picked up, voice cautious. Alex. I took a breath, steadied myself. I saw him. Our dad. He's a mess, but he confirmed it. I'm doing a DNA test. Will you? Silence stretched, then a quiet. Yeah, I will. We met at the clinic days later. Awkward, no hugs, just clipped words and paperwork. She looked tired, beautiful still, and I hated how much I missed her. This doesn't change us, she said, soft, as we left. Not what we felt. I nodded, throat tight. I know. The results took a week. Longest week of my life. When the envelope came, I drove to her dorm, hands shaking as I tore it open in her room. We read it together, side by side, her breath hitching as the words sank in. No biological relation. I stared, reread it. Twice, 3 times. What? I whispered. She grabbed it, eyes wide. You're not his? or I'm not. I called Mom, frantic, demanded the truth. She broke down, voice trembling over the phone. You're not his, Alex. I was with someone else before he left. I never told you, didn't want you to feel different. Different? I laughed, wild, relief crashing in. Emma wasn't my sister. She never was. I turned to her, the paper slipping from my hands, and she was already there. Tears streaming, a smile breaking through. You're not my brother, she said, voice shaking. And I pulled her close, no hesitation, no walls. I'm not, I said, laughing into her hair. I'm yours. We kissed. Hard, messy, like we'd been holding our breath for weeks, and it was right again, real again. The world snapped back into place, brighter than before. Months later, I proposed, down on one knee in that same park, her laughing through yes, and we built something new, something ours. Dad faded back to nothing, his shadow gone, Mom's secret forgiven in time. And years on, I'm standing here, watching Emma chase our daughter across the grass. Little Mia, all curls and giggles, the best of us. I loved Emma before I knew the truth, loved her through the wreckage, and now I love them both, my family, my everything, no ghosts left to haunt us. That's it for today's story. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more wild Reddit stories. Until next time, stay curious and keep the stories coming.